Well, good morning, friends and fellows, enemies alike. Everyone's welcome. Come on in, sit down. Short talk at the trailer with the old guy. Advertising dollars are still not coming in. Uh, I'm waiting. I hereby endorse club soda, that is to say, water with bubbles. I can't really tell the difference between something called carbonated water, sparkling water, club soda. Now, don't get involved in tonic water. Ugh, that stuff's horrible. But at any rate, I guess if you have like yellow fever or something. But anyway, the thing is that why would we're done with that. It's a Tuesday morning, and I just thought I'd sit down with you for a few minutes. It's maybe 10 to 7, so I'm going to bug out maybe 40 minutes like that. And just thought I'd have a short talk in the trailer with you. And didn't really want to talk about the news much because, well, you know, uh, I talk about this stuff fairly often, and frankly, a lot of it's pretty depressing. And let's face it, my so-called coverage is not exactly blow by blow with photos and links. It's just, well, this old guy was talking about this thing, see, and I don't know. But I got to thinking about the news today a little bit, and I thought, well, there's old news and then there's new news, and the whole idea of the as they call it industry, the news industry. Give me a break. What did you guys manufacture? Well, mainly lies. But at any rate, that's neither here nor there. The there's old news, there's new news, and so the industry specializes and jumps on trying to be absolutely to the latest millisecond up to date. It's very important to be up to date as to what's happening right now, like say in Taiwan or the North Pole or Alpha Centauri. And so it's a hurry game, it's a rush, and speed is the name of it. So what that means is that the stuff only has a shelf life because it's like you put out fresh fruit, it's only good for a little while. You don't want to come back 4 years later. Hey, I thought I left a peach here. So the news has a expiration date in terms of what they're following or what often I cover, and really, let's face it, a lot of this algorithm here, this YouTube algorithm, is devoted really to news analysis or commentary or mockery, uh, or strange events caught on camera. I look at that kind of stuff, and you look at this, and it's like, I don't know. I really don't know. Probably devils are involved. So I thought, the old news and the new news and all that stuff, the news in terms of the 66, in terms of the Bible, at one point Paul the apostle said something like, and I hope I don't mangle this too badly. I'm also pretty bad at scripture quotes, if you hadn't noticed. I determined to preach nothing among you, and I would say announce or declare instead of preach, because the word preach is loaded. I determined to announce really the news. Nothing was significant. Nothing had any meaning, really, except for one feature, one huge deal: Christ and Him crucified. I determined to preach nothing to you but that the anointed one of God and Him, the anointed one, crucified. He considered this to be like the central unlocking feature. If you think of wisdom as, for instance, an example, in the Old Testament, Solomon is actually rewarded by God for seeking first. God says, "I'll give you anything you want. What do you want? What do you want?" And except he didn't say it like that, but he requested wisdom that he may rule the people well and walk before God honorably, or something like that, and go in and out before this great people that you've put me over, something like that. So at any rate, wisdom has an encoded source, and it begins with the fear of the Lord. Wisdom, it begins this way: seek wisdom. Don't seek folly. Don't seek just what's trending. Don't seek what's here today, gone tomorrow. Don't seek what's just another flash in the pan. Seek what lasts. Seek what's sober, what's real. The real stuff. And so, in other words, it's drawing us out of it, the land of imagination, drawing us out of our fantasy worlds and bringing us back to the real world, which he made and he owns. And in fact, it's that one we were talking about all along. So there's old news. And so I was thinking in terms of, as an example, Taiwan and China. Okay, that's in the news. Could drag the U.S., possibly Australia, into another, global war scenario thing. What is this? The third one this month. First we had Ukraine, then we had Israel, now we got Taiwan. 3 flashpoints where essentially a world war could erupt. And we've got the poodle in charge, really. A senile, old serial felon. This guy's in charge at this time. Okay. Well, at any rate, the point is that in terms of news, I thought, well, what if you analyzed it this way? Forget about the missiles, forget about the bombs, forget about the distance between them, forget about the strategy, boom, boom, boom. Let's think about it in entire. What about the Taiwanese believers, the Christians, and the mainland believers? What are the connections there? Is that communion at war with each other? Does there need to come a reunion between brothers across that boundary? And so I'm not proposing necessarily that Taiwanese people say, as Christians, for instance, but what I'm saying is wisdom could lead you here. What if there was a war between the mainland believers and the Taiwanese believers? I don't know if any such thing even exists. I don't know if any bad blood there, but is there friendship? Is there participation? Are they sharing in the koinonia, the brotherhood, the lively, friendly connection, spirit-filled? Well, I don't know that either. So in other words, I thought, what if you analyze the news from a perspective like that? Okay, it would be a new perspective. Well, in other words, the news of the 66, the news of the Bible, is based on old news, but by and large, the talking heads and the industry will never and really cannot really much allow this stuff to come out. But it isn't censorable. It's so weird. And so, in other words, basically what you're saying is this: when a crime occurs, justice will eventually be done. And that's really all we're saying. And so, and if it doesn't occur in the courts of mankind, or if it doesn't occur by somehow the hand of God, as we call it, in a catastrophe, or a war, or whatever, then God Himself judges all persons. You, me, every human being that ever was and ever shall be, will stand, and there will be a judgment, and it'll be life or death. It'll be the living, the dead. They separate at that point. He is the dividing point, and so the most terrifying words, perhaps in the New Testament, in my reading, is in that judgment scenario there, the Lord Himself says, and to those on my left, I believe He said, I will say, depart from me, workers of iniquity. That's workers of lawlessness, covenant breakers, oath breakers, liars, and however sin is categorized. Depart from me, you workers of iniquity. I don't know you. I've never known you. You're strangers to me. And He was the Creator? Wait a minute. How can you have creatures that are strangers to the Creator? They've become warped that badly. They've become another kind of thing, and that's permanent. And that's what the great decision point, the great judgment is all about. So in light of the news, you see this old news in the rear view, which you're supposed to have gotten over now, because remember, the news cycle keeps moving on. It's still valid. It's still a huge point. And until we begin to even realize that as human beings, we can't even begin to grow. We can't even begin to walk in a way that's faithful or loyal to Him. So in other words, we have to walk up to him basically and acknowledge, look, sir, I know the judgment's coming. I've known it all along. Frankly, I just rather chose to suppress that information if you'd like to know. Because, well, there was certain evidence in there which I would say was not entirely flattering to me. So we fear God. That's in the wisdom. That's encoded, you see? So in other words, there's news out there. So this old news is still valid. Well, guess what? We just dropped an atomic bomb hammer on reality and snuffed everything out. You know, there's this Tom Horn guy. He passed away recently, a reverend. Skywatch TV, that was the channel. His son Joe, I guess, is still running the thing. I don't know. It's funny, ever since Tom died, too bad. I don't know, I guess it's like a month ago, something like that. I haven't really picked up any new stuff out of Skywatch, so, you know, I hope they're still creating, you know, content. And I like the content, it's pretty good. But at any rate, he was predicting this thing coming down 99942 on 13 April 2029, asteroid Apophis. He says it's going to impact. He said he had a vision of it and whatnot. And, well, maybe he did. I mean, I don't know what he saw. But NASA says up and down, well, originally we thought it might have a 2.7% chance of hitting, but, we moved it. So now it's going to fly by at 32,000. It won't touch the Earth. Trust us. So now we're supposed to use NASA as the gold standard, right, of truth-telling. Since when? You mean those guys with the photographs of Greenland? You mean those photographs of the guys with harnesses on? When they step outside the ship, bubbles arise? Yeah, trust those guys. Okay. So at any rate, the that's ridiculous. But the point is that there's news and then there's news. So I thought, well, you know, in terms of a talk with an old guy, I mean, you know, we recite the old stuff over and over again. But in other words, Paul's so very, very right. And I just want to leave you this for the Tuesday morning when you walk out the door. Here's the deal. Paul was right. In light of that great incoming judgment, none of us, not one of us, not one, have hope of survival, much less blessing. Devastation, fury, fire from on high. This may well be the only time ever, and I'm not a theologian, and I'm not willing to wager my eternal soul on this, but it may well be the only time ever that the Almighty himself stood up, clothed in human form, with a sword as the commander of the hosts of heaven. That may never occur again, because once this rebellion is put down, the sword goes in the sheath. He's the King of Peace, and he created peace himself. So the news is right there. Incarnation, Christ, that's the thing. The one, the anointed one, he did come. The guy who invented reality stepped into his own world. And he became one of his own characters in his own story. Isn't that interesting? And who recognized him? That was the part the author wrote in. But there's news for you, and it's good news. So when you get wore down and scuttered in the brain by all the trash coming in on the web, sit down and remember the main points of Scripture truth and how they apply to you, and just find ways to be thankful that sanity still resides somewhere. And he's coming. He's coming at right time, just the right time. Thank you very much. You have a good day. Bye-bye.